Okay, so you joined 5 years ago. Were you a Bitcoiner already?
Not when I started the team. No. It started coming for me. I started looking into it 2018, a little bits and pieces. 2019, and then as a chief executive, you're starting to think. You're always thinking, how do I stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I think my Bitcoin knowledge compared to a lot of people like yourself or Patrick is minuscule. Yeah, but I just cannot see a future in business without it. And for me, it was if we didn't, start our position or our movement into Bitcoin, then you're just not executing what you need to do as a C-level executive. When I look to the future, and what we're doing now is we're placing ourselves for 2040. We're not looking at what we're doing in 2024. This is it. What you've got to imagine, what's the world going to be like in 15 years? And are you trying to tell me Bitcoin won't be a huge part of that? I just don't think that's possible at all. In every facet of the business. I started talking to Patrick, and he was an incredible listener.
You were already at the company?
No, I was just a Bitcoiner.
Okay, so how did you connect?
Wow, it's a good question, and you'd be surprised how few people ask this, Pete.
Yeah.
He's my brother-in-law.
Shut up.
No, I'm deadly serious.
Didn't know that.
No,
Yes.
And very few people know or have asked. But
So you were kind of friends already then?
my brother-in-law, but I had no idea he's a Bitcoiner.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Contentious.
Yeah.
And then, but this is where
We're not friends.
Yeah.
We're brothers-in-law.
That's
my
it.
brother-in-law, and this is where Patrick had already started his Bitcoin journey, and I had no idea. And then I start my own journey, and then it was my inquisitive nature that as I chat to Patrick about a lot of things, started chatting to him, and he still gave me really no indication of what his position was. And as we got talking, the conversations started to evolve, and he became an incredible soundboard for me to continue to, forward my journey and how I could integrate this into the organisation. And then it took off from there, really.
What were you doing at the time, Patrick?
No, so I'm a cinematographer by trade.
Okay.
So I work just as in commercial cinematography. But in the meantime, I've been in Bitcoin for a number of years, and it's just something, as you know, it grabs you, and it's a topic that I've been interested in since really, sort of 2016 is when I got in, and then 2018 things started to come together, and then it just...
Were you already living in Australia?
Already living in Australia,
Okay.
yeah. So I've been here for over 10 years now.
Okay.
And so started down that path. And then as you do, I just got further and further along into not only the technology side, but also the idea of what Bitcoin actually is apart from money, and seeing where that could be integrated into my own personal life, and then what that would look like for other entities, seeing where it would go, the philosophy behind it, all of those things, just continually learning about it. It's something that just pulls you in. And then obviously I'm always looking to advance it in conversation or in passing with people, and Steve showed an interest. And then it was really like, sometimes you go through waves. Sometimes you'll take pride in your ability to orange people. Other times you'll just want to leave, you don't want to do it at all. You just want people to find their own way. And I was in a stage where it was fun to try and meet people where they were and explain what the benefits of Bitcoin were. And to Steve's credit, he was someone who was, he got it very quickly about how it could make him more efficient as an individual. And then he put it together, well, if it works for me, why aren't we seeing it anywhere else? And through those conversations, realizing the opportunity that is available to businesses, especially to first movers in the space, is you can't replicate the opportunity that is now in the future, right? This is a once in a lifetime, once in a species grab at seeing just where efficiency can be gained, which is the ultimate goal of it all, right? That's why Bitcoin exists in the first place. And the opportunity to be at the front of that, I mean, it's nice because we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You can almost look back to the internet and say, okay, well, what were some of the things that were happening at the early onset of the internet to see what we should do as a company or what I should do as an individual? The internet, you didn't have to have the world's greatest idea in 1995.
Nope.
You just had to get involved. And eventually, the people that are involved, I mean, the meme in Bitcoin, which is true to a certain extent, is that you fall down the rabbit hole, right? But what people forget is that someone had to dig the rabbit hole, right? You get to fall down. Other people have to dig.
Yeah.
And so the idea behind the heat.
Love that.
Yeah. The idea behind the heat is we fell all the way down the rabbit hole, but then you hit the bottom where it's like, okay, well now what can this tool do? If you think of Bitcoin not just as money, but as a tool, which it is, well then how can we integrate that tool? Because the reason you use any tool is to make you more efficient, right? You wouldn't use a shovel. You wouldn't use your hands if you can use a shovel. It makes you more efficient at digging a hole. If someone offered you a bulldozer, you would use that instead of the shovel. So it's like the tool that is Bitcoin, you can just, again, it's not rocket science. You just plug it into anything, it makes you more efficient because it's incredibly good at removing middlemen. So if middlemen just suck up resources, but they're necessary, right? Because there's technological limitations at the time a system is constructed, and you need a middleman to be able to delineate the resources properly. But when you don't need that middleman anymore, those resources, which is, we can just think of it just in energy, that energy can then be allocated differently. And that's exactly what you're trying to do every time you use a tool. So to Steve's credit, he said, okay, well, it makes me as an individual more efficient. Corporation or a business like his is just a group of individuals who are both or who are all pointing at the same goal. So how can I make us more efficient at achieving this goal? And the answer is, which is beautiful, is that we don't know. Like we don't know what we don't know because no one's ever plugged it into a corporation. No one's ever plugged it into a company. And we're small enough to be able to be very light on our feet and to be able to move. And so basically, the ecosystem has embraced us so much because we've decided, well, let's just put our hands up and say, we have, say, 10,000 people on a weekend. We have an entire organization who understands that this will make us more efficient. Let's just see how we can become more efficient. Let's plug it in everywhere we can, right? Because we have enough people on staff that understand that it's not going to work out of the box, right? I'm sure you deal with it. Yeah. On an individual level, it works pretty good. That rabbit hole has been dug. Like people have done really good things. There's still places obviously where it needs to improve, but that's always happening. There's companies in place to do that. At the small business level, it has been explored less, I would say. So our job is to put our hands up. Anyone that has a solution, come to the test bed where we can try these things. And we'll have the open mind that what we see is working now isn't going to work the same in 30 days. It's not going to work the same in 90 days. And it's not going to work the same in a year. And we're flexible enough to be able to say, we understand the benefits in the long run. So let's go all in. And we'll see what those benefits end up being, which has led to, how many times have we shifted in where positive things come to the organization through Bitcoin? It's been multiple times.
Multiple times, yeah. And that's what's so exciting is that even as we enter a new season in a few months and our plans of how we want to integrate, adopt, innovate, they could be changed by Christmas. Because as Patrick said, as you continue to dig, you go, well, here's another opportunity, or here's something else that we didn't know that we would encounter, or here's another opportunity that we've got the chance to test the technology in a different way. And that's what's so exciting about the position as well, is that it is continually evolving. And for us to be at the forefront of being able to pioneer this or to integrate with other global Bitcoin companies and say, reach out to us, let's try it, let's do this, is exciting. It's an opportunity we'll never have again, yeah. And yeah, we're so thankful in a lot of ways that we get to we get to be the guinea pigs in some ways.
Well, Patrick, what really stood out to me when you said first mover. With the Bedford football team, I originally tried to do it in 2017, and I just didn't have the money or a plan. It was before I even had a podcast. Yeah. I was just a guy who got into Bitcoin and made a little bit of money. I thought I'll buy a football team, and there was no plan. And so it didn't happen. Then 4 years later, I have the podcast, and I rethink the plan. I was like, oh no, there's a way I can do this now because there's a Bitcoin community. But once I realized, I was like, I've got to be first. You can't be the second Bitcoin football team. You want the second, you want the third, you want them all to exist. I absolutely want every football team. And look, if Liverpool became the Bitcoin football team and, everyone considers them the main one, fine. I'm cool. I'm happy for that because it's great for Bitcoin. But they're not going to. And I knew we had to be first.
Yep.
And that first mover advantage is huge because I think of Bitcoin as a cheat code. And I don't know how much this will resonate with you, but there is everything it adds to the business in terms of efficiency. But the network effects of Bitcoin mean you now have people who buy Perth Heat merchandise, who support Perth Heat, who probably don't like baseball, never even heard of Perth Heat, never been to Perth. You've now tapped into that community because you're the Bitcoin team. Yes. We've got exactly the same on the football team. It's an absolute cheat code for us that allows us to accelerate what my goals are for that team?
Yes, absolutely. We look at merchandise sales in the first 3 weeks when we launched, and the global sales we had in 3 weeks eclipsed what we previously had in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that was just, as you said, by plugging into the Bitcoin community. Now, no matter what city I go to in Australia, there are Perth Heat fans who are Bitcoiners that never knew Australian baseball existed 3 years ago. We've got fans globally.
I didn't.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal how the brand has quickly exploded globally. Through launching our Bitcoin position a couple of years ago, and now we go again the engagement with fans and players, and how that works, and how we can showcase players in different ways has been great for the organisation.
What were the challenges of selling this in? Once you kind of had the plan, you're like, okay, we think we're going to become the Bitcoin baseball team. What were the challenges of getting this to the board?
Well, they've got great trust in me, and forever thankful that I guess the levels and the layers of management at Perth Heat would be very different to say Liverpool or say the West Coast Eagles here in Australia in the AFL. We continually had discussions with it. They wanted to understand how it would work, and even the significant shift in change, making sure that still our core business principles were being met, and those KPIs were being achieved was important. And then it was let's just test it and see how we go. And then probably where the biggest difficulty happened was when we launched was during COVID, and the Australian Baseball League season was cancelled in the end because we couldn't get out of Perth. We couldn't fly anywhere. So suddenly there was this global attention on the team as the Bitcoin baseball team, and we were going to integrate it into game day, et cetera, and we weren't playing any games. And just the balance of the team wasn't quite right, and it did upset a few people, and I can understand why. It was all of a sudden, it was Bitcoin, and there was no Perth Heat, there was no baseball, but that was because we weren't playing any games. So there was, I shouldn't say some rough days through there, but there was some people that, there were some challenges which people just couldn't piece it all together. Whereas when we look at the last 12 months and what we've just been through, being able to activate and integrate, suddenly there's an understanding, okay, this is how it works. And if I come to the baseball stadium and I want to use fiat, I can still do it, But okay, wow, now I've got the opportunity to send sats to players live in game and I can engage with them. Wow, this is pretty cool. Okay, this is what they talk about, the innovation, the technology, and how it all comes together. And that narrative has completely changed. And the fact that now fans from the outside can see the use and understand it has made significant difference in terms of the narrative and the adoption.
Do you get shit from other teams where they think it's a gimmick?
Initially, yes.
Yeah.
Again, and it was almost people thought we were in for a cheap publicity stunt.
Yeah.
And the longer I guess we've been the Bitcoin baseball team, the less we've seen of it, because now they understand, okay, no, this isn't some sort of publicity stunt. This is how they're adopting, this is how they're integrating, this is how they're innovating. I remember a couple of weeks after we launched, there was a basketball team in Australia that suddenly put out a release. And then they're going to take crypto payments at the arena. And we looked at this, there was about a 6-paragraph release. And I went on their website and tried to follow how they'll take these payments. And I'm thinking, well, what shitcoins are they going to be taking? And how is that going to work? It's just not possible. We're suddenly going to go up to the kiosk and they're going to say, oh, I'd like to pay in Litecoin, or someone then's going to come, I'm going to pay in Solana, or then I'm going to pay with a dog coin or whatever it is. It's just impossible. And funnily enough, I haven't seen anything of that release again.